This week on the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast, we examine the backlash of WWE Backlash. One side of the World Heavyweight Championship tournament is complete. The other will be decided this coming Friday, or today, as you're listening to this. Also, AEW continues to roll in the cash. If Wembley Stadium wasn't enough, wait till you hear what they have done this week. We're going to talk about all of that and more on this edition of the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. The bomb drops.
For all of you friendly, nice, amazing people.
Oh, hi everyone. We love you so much.
You guys are the best.
It's TSF.
Is it real?
100 Knot.
Oh my God.
And you're listening to the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast.
Thank you, TSF. Hello and welcome to episode 21 of season 4 of the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast, the show that is for the fans, by the fans. I'm your phenomenal host, Mr. Podcasting Chris Belcher. Joining me, as always, is the young buck, Mr. Andy York. And due to some scheduling issues, we are recording this earlier than normal and not in the same room. Andy, this is like 2 out of the last 3 weeks or something like that. This is a little strange.
Yeah, and both are my fault, so just you can throw your hate towards me. That's fine. Hopefully after this weekend, we should be good for a while because things hopefully start to slow down a little bit personally for me. But yeah, I hate that we're not able to do this in person or with our normal time slot, I guess that we could say, in our normal spot. But, you know, we're talking about wrestling, so I'm happy no matter where we're doing it.
That's exactly right. That is very true. Yeah, we'll go ahead and preface by saying we are recording this directly after Dynamite on Wednesday night, so we're going to do our best to catch everybody up on AEW stuff, but evidently we're going to fall short. It's just going to happen because it's been a busy Wednesday for both of us, and let's just leave it at that. All right. Before we get into everything, shout out to our partners over at WrestleBuddy and on SportsWire Radio. Thank them so very much. Follow us at PBW Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Andy is at Andy_PBWP, and I'm at Chris Belcher 24. The PBWF Season 2 is rolling down the tracks. Week 5. Just released this past week. Thank you guys for checking that out. Hope you are digging what we're doing there. All right, Andy, let's get to it. Let's kick off the show with our Pipe Bomb of the Week. We've sort of punted on this the last couple of weeks, but something that I definitely want to talk about. You know how, Andy, I get on these rants about people and their opinions and how they like to, just stupid stuff, okay? I know. And I don't know why I go down these rabbit holes or go down these tracks, but I do.
Who's the target this week?
I'm not going to mention their name. But
okay.
I'm going to start by saying again, like I like to say, listen, feel free to have your opinions, ladies and gentlemen, because they're not facts. They're opinions. I can't tell you that your opinion is wrong. I can just tell you that it doesn't make sense in my head. A good opinion, Andy, is one that can be backed up by facts, or at least things that can be perceived as reasonable. Let's put it that way. That's what a good opinion is. So somebody posted an opinion piece on a very well-known wrestling news site this week. Again, not going to mention the name. I'll tell you when we sign off.
Okay.
This was the quote from the opinion piece. It was about the AEW 4 Pillars match. It says, and I quote, "They are simply too small and all 3 wrestle a high-risk style that exposes them to potential injury." And I said to myself,
Can you read that again?
I sure can. Ready? Here we go. They, being the 4 guys in the match, talking about Darby Allin,
right,
Sammy Guevara, MJF, and Jungle Boy. They are simply too small, and all 3, I guess they're not including MJF here, all 3 wrestle a high-risk style that exposes them to potential injury. And I said to myself, Self, isn't that most of AEW anyway?
Isn't that wrestling?
Right?
Like, you expose yourself to injury the second you walk through the ropes.
Yeah.
That
So I'm gonna back up
hang
and
on.
say that. Yes, go ahead.
well, really quick, I would just like to point out, I don't think I've ever classified MJF as a smaller caliber guy.
Right.
Like, even in person, the dude's not small.
Exactly. Yep.
So that. Go ahead. Can
So-
you send me the article? I would like to read this article.
I will send you the article. Yes, as soon as we get off here.
Thank you.
I will go back and I will say exactly what I said not 2 minutes ago. Opinions are respected when they are backed up by good thoughts and facts and reasonable explanations. This is not even close. Like,
No.
come on, man. Like, this is just bad. I literally read it and I just laughed out loud. I said, this is the stuff that are on wrestling news sites. Like,
Right.
come on, man.
My thing is, if you're we'll say a smaller caliber guy like a Jungle Boy, Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara, you've got to do incredibly stupid and insane stuff just to get recognized half the time, because everybody does stupid and insane stuff in today's wrestling world. So, like, you have to do stuff to stand out amongst the rest. And as far as I know, like, Sammy has never really injured himself pretty bad.
Right.
Darby's the same way. And Jungle Boy has had some injuries, but I don't think they were due to high-risk maneuvers. I just think they were run-of-the-mill wrestling injuries that happen when you've been wrestling for a while. So it just... that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, because then you've got people on the other side who are like, yeah, but then you've got Adam Cole who wrestles a safe style, but he's so small you can't do... Like, it's just... Shut up. Shut up.
And then...
Wrestling is subjective, and I fully get that. But some of you people just...
You're probably going to have that same person say, Rey Mysterio is the greatest high flyer of all time. I mean, he's just so great, and he just whatever. And like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah, and Eddie Guerrero might be one of their favorite wrestlers too, who was like doing stupid stuff as well. Or RVD, like RVD is another one that's like did a lot of insane stuff for no reason. Jeff Hardy.
Yeah.
Look at the shape Jeff Hardy is in physically because of the stuff that he has done since literally like the mid to late 90s. Like, just it's insane.
Yep. I know. Wrestling fans just man. One of a kind, I swear. One of a kind.
They are.
All right.
Because you got to hate them.
That's a good point. All right. There's my rant for the week. Andy, what you got?
So you just talked about how wrestling fans have to back up what they do, their opinions, by having at least not necessarily facts, but understanding why you like what you like.
Reasonable explanations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The same has to be true for storylines and setting things up in wrestling. So why in the world, would SmackDown superstars be eligible to compete in a tournament that's not even really a tournament, but it's a tournament, kind of, sort of, not really, for a World Heavyweight Championship that's going to be not on SmackDown, but on Monday Night Raw? That first alienates an entire section of the bracket right off the bat. Or you completely just disregard an entire draft that you spent a month after WrestleMania building up. So you're tearing down one side or the other. And if you were worried about not having enough on Raw, well, guess what? You're doing a draft that you could predict you can pick who goes where, and you could put enough people on Raw to do that draft. It just... It makes no sense, and it feels like this whole thing. I know the championship's been around for a while. Like the design and all of it has been around for a while. It just feels like bringing it to the main roster or bringing it to whatever show it was going to be on was not fully thought out and was just put out there and rushed. And then this is the end result that we get.
I'm glad you brought that up because we got a viewer question this week from our very own PBWF moderator and host, no, not Sean Ross Sapp, Mr. Tyler Peters, wanted to know what we think about the World Heavyweight Championship tournament. Andy just shared his thoughts lovely there.
Well, that's the SmackDown side.
Right.
I have more thoughts that we'll talk about here in a minute. But
so here's my response to the SmackDown side. And as much as I like to give people crap for stupid opinions and presenting their opinion as fact and all that kind of stuff, I also give Dave Meltzer a whole lot of crap because I just can't stand Dave Meltzer. But I'll give credit where credit is due. When Dave Meltzer was asked about this week, this is what he said. Ratings, the NBA playoffs, viewership.
yeah.
What's a way to get viewership up on SmackDown going up against the Golden State Warriors versus the LA Lakers? You make it part of the tournament. And I will be daggummed if we're not getting AJ Styles, Rey Mysterio, and Edge in a triple threat match on free television.
Yeah.
I get the beef. I totally understand that it's annoying it's part of the tournament going to Raw, and I get that. But I honestly, for what we got on Raw, which was fantastic, and we'll talk about that now, what we got on Raw was fantastic. And what we are about to get Friday night, I'm willing to just say, oh, you know what? I get that people are upset, but let's just enjoy it for what it is because it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and I completely understand that because the two triple threats and then the main event Monday night was ridiculous, and I'm expecting nothing less from Friday night as well. But my thing is, if you knew you were going to have to do this, then don't do the draft until after this tournament is over.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Like, this should have been built up towards Backlash instead of Night of Champions. So I think you could have done the tournament thing because listen, I loved the match between Seth and Omos. I really did. I thought it was a lot of fun. Omos's best match. We got the top rope curb stomp, all of that. Fantastic. I love it. But we could have had whatever this main event match is going to be at Night of Champions between Seth and whoever. We probably could have had this at Backlash for that title and then do the draft this Monday, or like this past Monday, and then this upcoming Friday. And then we're heading forward instead of doing it and then kind of having to storyline wise write in why we're doing this, even though it doesn't make sense and it kind of completely negates what you've done the last month or so building up the draft. I just wish they would take the draft a little bit more seriously.
Sure. And I'm with you because I think, we're already off to a rough start. I'm hoping that after this that they will take it more seriously, but then there's indications if you believe the reports online that Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are going to bounce back and forth in between brands as the tag team champions. So, okay, against second strike against the draft. So I don't know, man. It's like we like to say on this podcast, the more things change, the more they stay the same,
Yeah, and it doesn't help that Triple H's entire promo building up this championship was but be the complete opposite of Roman Reigns.
Sure.
Well, then why are we letting people from his brand that can't even beat him try to go after this championship too? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. However, what we are getting, it's the WWE way. The logic makes no sense, but hey, let's just throw all these great matches at you that are going to work, and we'll just make you forget about the basic reason why we're doing this for the most part. And it is what it is. But I hope from this point on we start taking the draft more seriously, so that we can start building because I'll say this: Raw did a great job of introducing some new stars and some new people from NXT onto the main roster, as well as building up this tournament, building up to the Night of Champions pay-per-view, and it's something that could be really, really cool and really, really special. So I'm excited to see where we're going. I'm just a little annoyed at of the path that we took to get here.
So let me ask you this, because I was going to add this to part of the question as well. The structure of the tournament, because it's not really a tournament. It's 2 triple threat matches per brand, and then the winners face off.
Right.
Let's say that they had structured it on Monday Night Raw only rather than SmackDown. Would you be okay with the triple threat format? Because then you would have 4 triple threat matches on Raw rather than 2. And then you would have sort of a mini tournament at the end of that.
Yeah, I think you could do it that way, but I also think you could have just done an 8-man tournament and not do triple threats. Because, I mean, listen, we got, 3 weeks until Night of Champions?
I'm surprised that
that would be...
by the time that people are listening to this, or if they listen to it the next day, we know the match. We had 3 weeks to build it in speculation.
It's crazy to me that they didn't do the 2 triple threats Monday and then do the finals or the semifinals next week.
Exactly. But
do a what would it be? An 8-man tournament. You could do 4 matches, 8 matches on Raw, 4 matches the next week, the final 2 the week before Night of Champions. Because the match going into Night of Champions needs 0 build to it because it's for the new championship. That's the entire build to the story.
Yep.
So you could have done it that way.
And then
get to it.
And then if we do know this match after Friday night, guess what? You're at strike 3 of the draft for the next 3 weeks.
Somebody's got to go down the other brand.
Somebody's got to switch. Yep. So for sure. But
so that's what makes me think that the person on the other side has to have history with Seth already.
Which would be Edge. Or Austin
or
Theory. Yep. I'm sticking with my pick.
AJ, because AJ has some, and Lashley does too.
Lashley does, yeah. I'm sticking with my pick of Theory that I texted you, I think, earlier today. I think it's going to be Theory. I'm going to hate that. I don't want to see Seth and Theory again because I feel like we saw it for a long time last year. But it makes sense.
And this year. We saw it a lot earlier this year, too.
That's true. Yeah, that's right. It happened on the Raw that we went to. Speaking of that, for someone that has tickets to SmackDown this week, I am not disappointed at all with what we are getting this week on SmackDown. I'm pretty pumped.
They need to let AJ, Edge, and Ray start to show off and give them at least 30 minutes. Like, entrances need to be done before the show even starts. And we start the show off with all 3 men in the ring already. The bell rings and we're just off and running 30 minutes at least between those 3.
Yeah, I would like to see that too. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't think that's gonna happen.
I'm just upset that only one of those 3 guys can advance. Like, I needed those guys to be separated so that we could see them go at it later in the night one-on-one.
Yeah.
But
Edge and AJ would have been great in the main event.
Oh, it would have been so good. Oh, dude, I cannot wait to hear the crowd when they face off for the first time. Dude.
Oh, I know. It's going to be great.
It's going to be crazy.
Even Edge and Ray, like they've had some feuds in the past, and they haven't locked up in a long, long time either. So
I know it.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be very, very interesting, which is, again, why I think Theory's going to win. But
probably
that's neither here nor there. Thank you, Tyler Peters, for submitting that question. We appreciate it. And if you are listening to this show, make sure that you are checking out the PBWF, Pipe Bomb Wrestling Federation, our fantasy booking show that is available wherever you find your podcast. So go check that out. Tyler is our moderator. We have a blast doing that. Make sure that you check that out. A lot of fun. All right, viewer question number 2 that we got this week is from our friend Mr. Jason Backowitz. And we're looking at the AEW side for a second, and he wants to know what is working and or missing with the booking of Ricky Starks in AEW?
Wow, that's a good question.
Isn't it?
That is a really good question.
I know. As soon as I got it, I told him, I said, man, you're making me think. Like, this is like,
Yeah.
I got to really think about this.
A heads up on this question would have been nice. Because listen, his booking was great going into that feud with Hobbs. Like that, the booking between the two of them was really, really good
Because they had
match
history.
That we got was, and the match that we got was rushed for some reason. And then after that, he did a feud with, was it Jericho?
Mm-hmm. Yep, it was.
It was in a feud with Jericho, which was good. It was all right. It was long, very long, but it was all right. And then now he's in with Bullet Club Gold, which I think is fine. He was such a popular guy, and it seems like that has not really stuck around. Not because of him, but just because I think the booking he's been involved in has kind of dragged him back down. Same thing with Hobbs. Hobbs was really popular for a while too, and then his booking kind of pulled him down a little bit.
Do you think?
I feel like he's the kind of guy you just put a microphone in his hand and he'll get the crowd
That's true.
back in his hand once again, really, really quickly.
Do you feel like Starks is a product of the large roster of AEW and how they seemingly like turn over guys in between pay-per-views and kind of go through cycles of guys? You think he suffers from
Probably. I think he does. I think that's why if they're doing the rumored brand split at some point, I think guys like him, I think guys like Wardlow and Hobbs, even guys like Swerve and Keith Lee will benefit more because they're going to get more TV time. They're going to get more time. Now, I will say though, with a split AEW brand, pay-per-views are going to be very interesting to see what they look like. Because I don't think you're going to get as many chances to be on pay-per-views. However, these specials that AEW likes to do for these shows, I think we're going to get more of those where they're going to be like mini pay-per-views on TV. And so I think that's where you're going to see a lot of people start. And then if they're getting and rising in popularity, then they'll end up on the actual pay-per-view itself. And I could see someone like Starks absolutely doing that.
I'm going to pivot off of Ricky for a minute. I'll backtrack because I have a thought. But to that point that you just made about the pay-per-views and the split brands and all that kind of stuff, it's rumored right now that WWE might go back to brand exclusive pay-per-views. Do you think AEW tries their hand at that? I know they have the specials, but do you think they try their hand at that?
I don't, because I just think the AEW pay-per-view format is so, for a lack of a better word, sacred right now, because of how they've run the AEW pay-per-views are the new takeovers. Like even the ones that aren't like fantastic are still really, 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 really good.
Sure.
Like really good. So I think you don't want to mess with that a whole lot. And so I don't think we're going to get this brand split pay-per-views, but I do think we get like brand split specials, like the Arthur Ashe Stadium and the probably Fight for the Fallen or Fyter Fest or shows like that. They'll probably going to break those off in between both shows.
Gotcha. My thought about
or run both shows. Each show gets both shows the same week.
Oh, like a Fyter Fest part 1 and 2, whatever. I got you.
Yeah.
Okay. My thought with Ricky is I think he's such a natural heel, and I think we might need to just go back to that for a bit. Let's establish Ricky as a heel, because a lot of people have compared Ricky Starks to The Rock. And I'm not going to say that Ricky is like The Rock in every way, but in Rock's run to being one of the biggest baby faces of all time, he had to be one of the most hated heels of all time first. I'm not saying Ricky has to be one of the most hated. I'm just saying he needs to be fully established as a big-time heel to make that switch to babyface that much better. And then I think the booking comes more natural and people are more invested when they've been around the character and they've gotten used to him for a while. I think he's still so new, man. And I think it's hard to push a white meat baby face like they're trying to push him as such a relatively new guy.
I think, and this isn't just AEW, I think this is just wrestling as a whole. We think when a heel goes to a baby face, they have to completely change who they are as a character.
Right.
And when they do that, they lose a lot of their appeal. Like they lose a lot of their appeal. So I think with that Rock run, when he was that heel and he transitioned to a baby face, he was still the same Rock the entire, like he was still the same Rock the entire time.
Yep.
There's not a huge difference even between like the Hollywood Rock that we got and the Rock before that. Like, yeah, he was more dastardly and meanball or whatever, but they were still the same. They were still the same person, except all his attacks weren't towards other wrestlers. They were towards the fans now, which
exactly.
You hated him because he did that, but you're also like, he's so charismatic. How can you actually hate this guy?
Right.
So I think that's part of it is if Ricky would have stayed the same, but done this face turn, I think it would have worked. I think it would work really well. Just like if ever MJF decides to go to a baby face, he doesn't need to change at all.
Nope, it's gonna
just
work.
Stay the way that you are, and it'll be just fine because people already love him.
Guess what? John Moxley, 0 character change, and people are booing him
from being the most loved to the most hated within 2 seconds.
0 character change.
Adam Cole's the same way.
Exactly. Yep. Absolutely, he is.
It's just you don't need to change your character when you change babyface or heel. You make subtle changes that fit with whatever you're doing now, but you stay your model stays the exact same.
You know, Charlotte Flair talked about this very thing. She did an interview on Busted Open right before WrestleMania, and they were talking about her being a babyface for a full-on babyface for the first time in her career. And she said things absolutely exactly what you're saying. Like in her promos, instead of listing off all these people that she's beat, she's listing them off as she's competed against, she's learned from. So just subtle changes like that, like you just said, make all the difference in the world. Now, I'm not saying that Charlotte became the greatest babyface by doing those things.
Right.
But to your point, that stuff works. That's what you need to do.
And I think the best example of this is Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson.
Yes.
He literally went from being the biggest babyface in AEW facing MJF to like 2 weeks later turning on the Elite and being one of the biggest heels, and he didn't change.
Right.
Like he got a little more aggressive and the word and how he attacked and stuff like little changes, like we said, but everything else is still the exact same.
This is not something we see a lot of now in wrestling, but I'm going to ask you this about Ricky. This just kind of came to mind. I don't know really where it came from. Do you think Ricky, even as a babyface, needs a female valet? Do you think that would help him?
I think that would help him more as a heel than it would as a face.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, we don't see that a lot with baby faces anymore, but you saw it with the Macho Man when he had Miss Elizabeth. Yeah. You saw it. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Oh, come on, Chris. Anyway, we've seen it. We've seen it plenty of times with baby faces having female valets. And I just think Ricky, with being this big model, good-looking kind of guy, do you think that would, I don't know, would it maybe it takes away from him more than it helps him? I don't know.
Maybe. Who would you put with him, though? Like that's...
I don't know. Like maybe you take maybe you take like a sky blue, or you take
maybe.
I don't know. The first person I thought of, I know it's not going to work because she's a heel, but the first person I thought of was Anna Jay.
I thought of her too, but shockingly enough, I actually don't mind her with the Jericho Appreciation Society that much. I think she's pretty funny with them.
Yeah.
But she could absolutely work with them. Maybe Sky. I think it would hurt him in a way though, because I feel like when he is fully himself is when people love him the most. And I think he just needs to get back to that. And it's kind of hard with this Bullet Club Gold feud because I don't think they want Jay White coming in and losing right away anyway. So I feel like it's not going to end well for him. But post this feud, I think we need to start getting back to the old Ricky Starks and building him back up like he was prior to the Hobbs match.
Right. Great question, Mr. Backowitz. We appreciate it. Thank you very much for challenging us like you so like to do. All right, third question. This is a very poignant topic, a very timely topic.
Okay.
From Mr. Aaron Grisham, my buddy at 24/7 Sports. Should WWE do more international premium live events? Because Puerto Rico was rocking. And I'm going to tweak this question just a little bit, because I don't think it should they do more, because we know the next two are outside of the United States. We've been on this Saudi train for 5 years now. Should they do more meaningful premium live events outside the United States?
Yes, absolutely. 1,000% yes. Without question, without hesitation. I think the less they're in America, the more American crowds are going to appreciate them when they're here.
I agree with that.
And I think that, I mean, listen, that Jacksonville crowd had a lot to live up to with the Backlash crowd, but they were horrible.
Yeah, they were.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Like, I normally blame WWE for piping in crowd noise. I didn't Monday night because they had, otherwise it would be nothing.
Right.
Absolutely. They didn't deserve those two triple threat matches in the main event.
It's like the Lafayette, Louisiana crowd.
The reunion.
Right. It's like the Lafayette, Louisiana crowd that got Gargano, Ciampa, Ricochet, and Aleister Black in one night.
They ruined those four guys' chance before they even started because of how little they cared.
Yes.
Like, I don't understand why wrestling fans go to a wrestling show and just sit there.
Yep.
Your job is to be a part of the show.
Yep. I agree.
So go be a part of the show.
Yep.
Backlash was a part of the show. The Puerto Rican crowd, listen, I have not listened to a single Bad Bunny song in my life. After Backlash, I've got a couple on my playlist ready to roll at any time because like the song he came out to was stuck in my I don't know a single word. Right. The song that he came out to was stuck in my head for 3 days after it because that crowd was singing it.
That's amazing.
So more shows outside the U.S., more shows in like Puerto. Listen, I'm fine with because I heard a report that people in WWE wanted Backlash to remain in Puerto Rico every year.
Yep,
I'm fine with that.
Cool.
I'm good with Clash at the Castle happen every year in London. Like, let that happen. Yep. Let's do a show in Tokyo. Could you imagine Shinsuke versus Finn Balor in Tokyo?
Yep.
Yes, it's not that hard. Like, you could do these shows in these markets, and people are going to be rabid going to it. Like they're going to be so excited to be there. So then when they finally come home to do a show, like I feel bad for the people in Detroit. They have no chance of living up to this.
Good luck, Detroit. Yep, that's all I'm
saying. I'm so glad SummerSlam's not in Nashville this year again because I know the crowd we were at was okay, but it wasn't that great.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. I tell you what, though, it'll be really good to see Money in the Bank in London. I will be
I'm so
very intrigued because
I'm so excited.
The way that I tweaked that question was we get more meaningful pay-per-views. Well, guess what? They've established Money in the Bank as the big five, so let's see what happens.
And I would argue that Clash last year was one of the most meaningful pay-per-views of the year last year.
It turned into. We didn't know ahead of time, but by the end of it, we were like, yes, yes, and yes.
By the end of it, it set up more for WrestleMania than maybe even the Rumble did. If you go back and look at it. Because you've got Solo coming in with the Bloodline, that whole Bloodline storyline taking place. Walter and Sheamus, which led to the triple threat at WrestleMania as well.
Dom turned.
We got the Seth Rollins entrance. That was amazing as well.
Dom turned that night.
Dom turned in. Yeah, I forgot that happened there.
Yep.
Or something else that happened too that kind of set up for the future. It's like more meaningful shows. They deserve it.
Yep.
Listen, their crowds are 10 times better than our crowds. They absolutely deserve it. I want to fly out to London for Money in the Bank just to be a part of the crowd,
Yep.
just to see what it's going to be like.
Yeah. I mean, we got Elimination Chamber in Saudi last year, so
Yep.
you can see them gearing more towards that. I just think we need to keep going that direction. Don't take a step back. Just keep going.
Yeah. I think with the success that AEW has had in Wembley, don't be shocked if not in the next 3 years, SummerSlam or WrestleMania be at Wembley.
Or Rumble.
Or Rumble. I hope they get a WrestleMania. I want them to get a WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Because that will be the most fun. And that could, listen, we'll do a WrestleMania 42. That would be the crowning moment for Gunther in the middle of Wembley Stadium, winning the World Championship.
Yep.
That's exactly how I would do it if they could book that stadium. Because I think if they ever went for WrestleMania, it would easily sell out.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. For sure. All right. Thanks, everybody, for your viewer questions this week. We appreciate that very much. Make sure that you are doing that each and every week. Just go check out that pinned tweet on my Twitter account at ChrisBelcher24. Find a tweet on the PBW podcast account. Give us a question. We'd love to answer it on the show. We'd appreciate that. Also, go check out Wrestle Buddy, our partners over there. It's been a long time since Andy and I have cranked anything out for Wrestle Buddy, but good news, as you're listening to this, my newest article is available. You want to hear what I think about the opponents for Roman Reigns that should be coming up after this 1,000-day mark? Go check out that article. It is live now, and I tell you that it's live now because if a feud happens to start that's already in that article, I have heard nothing. I have seen nothing. I'm just putting it out in the universe. So go check out my article. A lot of fun. Also, go check out Sportswire Radio. I know they would appreciate it. We would as well. We did a live show after Backlash last Saturday night with Tom and the crew over there. That is available on their Facebook page. Go check that out. Let's get into it, man. Let's cover Backlash. Let's give our reviews after we've had a couple of days to digest this. Thanks to Pro Wrestling Scorecards at PW Scorecards for our fun game that we play for every pay-per-view. And after 3 pay-per-views in a row, Andy has finally got back in the winners column. The streak is over. Andy beat me by a total score of 92-70. Of course, neither of us did very well because the actual total was 161, but we're getting there.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're doing better. I think we're doing better month to month.
We are. We're doing much better, that's for sure. All right, man, before we get into the card, overall thoughts on Backlash. We really didn't hit anything as far as like an overall perspective on the review show. Mm-hmm. Man, of course, the big thing that everybody's talking about is the crowd. We've already mentioned it. It was just absolutely insane from beginning to end. The weird dynamic with Bianca, all the way to the Bad Bunny sing along, and just everything in between was insane. But man, we say it all the time. It was another show that had an underwhelming card that we walk out of the show going, man, that was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, honestly, I think we would give this show probably like an A to A- as a grade for the show as a whole, just because there are a few minor things that, stuck out to me. Like the main event was what it was. It wasn't anything crazy to write home about other than Brock busting himself open hard way.
Right.
But I really think this show was absolutely light years better than I thought it was going to be. I know we both thought it was probably going to be good, but I was expecting at least a couple of, okay, that was that. Like, that's fine. We're just going to kind of move on from that. But every single thing felt extremely important.
Yeah, it did.
And I got to tell you, I know we've talked about it a lot already. That's partly because the crowd made everything feel so important.
Yep.
And like every match felt like it could have been the main event with how the crowd was involved in every single aspect of it.
I mean, that the Rhea Ripley Zelina Vega match anywhere else in the world, anywhere, would have been a dud.
okay.
It would have been a dud. But because it was in Puerto Rico and the people were behind Zelina, it was just wild.
It was awesome. Io getting the love that she finally deserves.
Yep.
Was absolutely amazing. Them singing Seth's music for however long he did was amazing. And then Omos actually looking good with Seth hitting the top rope curb stomp to get the job done. Like all of that was fantastic. But the biggest thing that I've taken away from Backlash is when it's all said and done, Bad Bunny will be the greatest celebrity wrestler of all time.
Yeah.
The greatest celebrity wrestler of all time. I know Logan Paul, he's under contract. He doesn't count. He's a WWE superstar as far as I'm concerned because he is under contract for multiple years, whatever. But as like one-offs here and there coming in to do it, Bad Bunny was fantastic. I believe it was on Busted Open, and it was Mark Henry that said this. I felt emotion every single time Bad Bunny went down. He was selling like crazy.
Yeah.
He was selling, pulling himself up. He was selling the way that him and Damian Priest have history together. Damian Priest, and I've heard reports that Priest is like considered a main event level guy now because of Backlash.
Yep.
Yeah, I can absolutely see it after Backlash as well. So I think my biggest takeaway is Bad Bunny cares. He loves wrestling just like the rest of us. And he wasn't given this opportunity. He 1,000% earned this opportunity and absolutely nailed it.
We're going to get to Bad Bunny in just a minute, so I'm going to save my thoughts on Bad Bunny because I've got some good ones. Let's move on to the card, man. Bianca Belair and Io Sky in the opening match. What an incredible opener it was. Bianca faced some adversity, man. The crowd was not behind her. But I honestly think, man, because if you look, when they both came out, they got cheered. At the end of the match, yes, everybody was cheering for Io in the match, but at the end of the match, people were happy that Bianca won. It wasn't this big boo fest or, whatever. But that being said, Bianca is now the longest reigning women's champion in the modern era. I don't know what the qualifier is there. I didn't look that up. But does Bianca now need to face some adversity? I know we joke about Cody facing adversity all the time, and I hate to use that phrase.
Right.
But does Bianca need something now? Are we getting to the point where, okay, let's figure something out? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think she needs something. I don't know if it's necessarily adversity. I think she needs something, though, to change her character a little bit. So whether that's a full-on heel turn, whether it's dropping the title or losing the title, I think that would probably be the best way to go. I don't see her losing that title, though, till maybe SummerSlam.
Right. Yeah. Or Money in the Bank.
Money in the Bank, because they love to do a cash-in with the women on Money in the Bank shows.
Yep.
But I listen, I could see a scenario where Charlotte wins Money in the Bank and then challenge her at SummerSlam for the title.
Mm-hmm.
Which I would be all for.
Or Charlotte wins Money in the Bank, cashes in, beats her, Bianca beats her in the rematch at SummerSlam.
Back at SummerSlam, something like that, yeah. Or, I could absolutely see Bianca losing it before we get to Money in the Bank, and Bianca wins Money in the Bank. Like, I think that could be something that happens as well. I feel like she needs to be probably out of the title scene a little bit and see what she's capable of without the title.
Yep.
Because there are a few people that when they have the world title, when they have that championship, it helps them and it elevates them. But once they lose it, they kind of fall a little bit. With Bianca, I have no doubt that she will be able to keep up that status. I mean, she in the short time she's been wrestling, she has taken over the women's wrestling world very quickly, deservingly so. And I think she keeps getting better and better. And so I don't think she needs to be never be women's champion again. I just think she needs some kind of change.
Yep.
To spice things up a little bit for her.
Because we saw the return of Becky Lynch on Monday Night Raw, which we're going to get to in a minute. But Becky hasn't had the women's title in a year. Did you hear how loud that crowd was whenever she came back Monday?
Right.
I mean, you talked earlier about Jacksonville not being great, but did you hear how loud they were? Like, it's okay to not have the title for a while. Seth Rollins, exact same thing. He hasn't been champion in 4 years, yet he is arguably the most popular wrestler on the roster. So it would not hurt Bianca at all to not be champion. She is... We talk about the chaser versus the champion and all that kind of stuff. I think she's proven she can hold it for a while. She's proven she's good in the chase. It's okay to go back and forth. People are not going to not like her, you know?
Right. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing is she is no matter where she's at, people love her. Even in Puerto Rico, they loved her. And then they were cheering for Io that night. But like you said, even after she won, there wasn't like John Cena levels of boos. Right. I know she's been getting a lot of John Cena comparisons, and I completely agree. I think she is the female version of John Cena, and I don't mean that in a bad way at all. I think that might be one of the highest compliments you can get as a wrestler is to be the John Cena of your division. Yep. But I think she needs to face something a little different so that people don't get bored with her, but that they can stay, that level of excitement can stay with her. And then we're all like, okay, when's she going to get the title back? When is she going to win that championship back at some point?
Bingo. Because just like John Cena, like I could see her character getting stale in some way. So we need something a little different. You mentioned Io. We got to give her flowers at this point. Listen, I said it on the post show, and I will keep saying it. She proved that she still belongs. She reminded everybody how good she is. And it shows, man, because now we're seeing Dakota and Bailey kind of team up instead of Dakota and Io. So whether we head to an actual full-on split or not, Io is proving she can hang in the singles division on the main roster, not just NXT.
Yeah, and I think I said on the post show, I think within the next 2 to 3 years, we could see her as women's champion on either brand. Yep. And nobody's going to be shocked that she won it. Like it's going to be absolutely deserved when she finally wins that.
Absolutely agreed. All right. If we're tallying up our points in this category, Andy beat me 14-11. Looks like we both missed the match time, and we picked the under on the 4.5 aerial moves. It was over. I'm sure that half of point got us.
Got 5.
Yeah. Probably that half a point got us. Andy hit the near falls, and that was what our separation was. All right, let's move on. Seth and Omos, the longest and probably best match of Omos's career. And just like Io Sky, you got to give the flowers to Seth Rollins, man. He does it again. You stack the odds up over 7 feet in front of him, and he burned it to the ground. You see what I just did there? That was so good.
I did see.
So good. But, man, Seth Rollins, you mentioned it earlier, the entrance was awesome. The top rope stomp was awesome. I mean, it was just like with Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, way better than it had any business being.
Yeah, and, you know, I love to give Seth his props because he absolutely deserves it. But for someone that has bashed Omos a lot on this show, you got to give him his props too. Like this was the first time watching this match where I sat back and went, okay, I see what guys like The Undertaker and guys like Kevin Nash and whoever giving him high praise. I see why they said that. Yeah. You just have to get him in there with the right person. Yep. And, you know, I thought the team of AJ and Omos was great. I thought it went way too long. Yes. But I thought the team up was really good. It actually made me care about him for a while. When he went by himself, it didn't really work that well until MVP came on the scene. Mm-hmm. But this showing, I think, was kind of his calling card of like, I can do this when I'm in there with the right person. And so I'm not nearly as anti-Omos as I was. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be a world champion or anything anytime soon, but I think this was a great showing out for him that he can do this, that he can hang with some of the big guys and put on a great match. And I think they did that. You know, this match in particular, and this thought just hit me as, again, we're kind of letting this pay-per-view settle. We're 5-6 days after it now. The thought hit me of knowing
this match proved to me that Triple H is in charge, at least from an in-ring perspective.
Yeah.
Because you go back and you look at when AJ Styles and Omos split up and they wrestled each other. It could have been one of the worst matches of AJ Styles' career. Like, it was so bad. And we know that AJ has incredible matches. We know he could wrestle a broomstick and make it entertaining, yet he couldn't do it with Omos. Now, that was almost 2 years ago at this point, a year and a half at least.
Yeah, something like that.
So Omos has certainly grown since then, but it also shows the psychology of how the match was put together, how good it made Omos look, yet Seth Rollins was able to still do his thing, make it look great. I just wish AJ would have had that shot, but unfortunately he didn't.
Yeah, but I think they may run that back sometime down the line between AJ and Omos. I think that would be a nice little callback at some point if you really, really wanted to.
Yeah, especially with Omos being a, quote, free agent. So we'll see what happens there. We tied in this category, actually, with 11 points each. We missed the match time, who was pinned the most, but we did get who won, the fall type, and the number of curb stomps over 1.5. So we nailed that one. All right. The shortest match on the card really blew my mind. The triple threat match. Austin Theory retaining the championship against Bobby Lashley and Bronson Reed. You called the finish. Exactly what you said is exactly what happened. You called the top rope curb stomp, whether it was a joke or not, you called it. And you called the finish of this one too. Kind of weird that it was the shortest match on the card though.
Yeah, so this one might have been my most disappointing match of the night.
It definitely was me.
I think just because of how short it was and how rushed it was. And it just never really clicked, I don't think, at some point. But even that being said, it wasn't a bad match, to say the least. It was still really fun.
Yep.
You got to see some really impressive stuff with Bronson. When we both thought he was going for that top rope moonsault to the outside when he just did kind of like a Vader bomb. But then he actually did pull out a moonsault in the ring, which looked beautiful at the same time.
And then Theory got him up on his shoulders. Was wild. Which was
really impressive.
Yep.
But it just, I think it served its purpose. It got more heat on Theory. Personally, I would have loved it if Lashley came out with the title, because I feel like Lashley with the title on SmackDown, while Roman's not going to be there a whole lot, you could really boost Lashley up to face Roman at some point down the line, not necessarily right away, but boost him up to be the next really big opponent for Roman Reigns before we probably get to WrestleMania 40 this year or next year.
I think that feud with Roman is coming sooner rather than later, and I'll share my thoughts in the WrestleBuddy article. Go check it out. Anyway, spoiler alert. Yeah, man, I echo everything that you just said. I think Bobby Lashley is the kind of guy, along with AJ Styles, that can hold the fort down, be the faces of SmackDown, AJ being the face that runs the place. The house that AJ Styles built, as he likes to say. So
beat up John Cena.
Beat up John Cena, that's right. Still one of the best things ever. I just want to know how planned that was and who knew about it.
I know.
It was great. If we're looking at points in this one, I took the W in this one, 14-9, because Andy picked Bobby Lashley to win, and I picked Austin Theory to win. So that helped me get the advantage on that one. All right. We mentioned Rhea Ripley and Zelina Vega earlier. A great moment for Zelina Vega, man. I don't care what anybody says. There's some stupid fans online complaining about how she got emotional and she shouldn't get emotional, and Bad Bunny didn't get emotional when he came out there. And there's a difference in Bad Bunny, the most downloaded superstar in the world, in the music industry. He's not going to go out there and get nervous. It's not going to happen. I'm not saying Zelina Vega was nervous, but this was the top moment of her career.
Yeah.
And
That's what she worked for.
Exactly, man. And
Yeah.
like, how can you not get emotional for that? Like Bianca Belair, WrestleMania 37, she got emotional. Sasha Banks had to basically slap her senseless and say, "Hey, we got a match to do. Let's go."
Yeah.
But it's that moment. It's huge. It's what you worked for in your home country. And again, I think I said this on the preview show. I think I said it on the post show. If you know anything about Zelina Vega's personal history and her story to get in the wrestling business, it makes sense. So I'm just very happy for her, man.
I am too. Listen, she absolutely deserved this moment in front of her crowd, in front of her home, with her family getting to see her wrestle for the first time on SmackDown and then at Backlash as well.
Yep.
It's honestly like one of the best things about wrestling is when moments like this happen.
Yep.
And you get to see people's hard work being paid off in that kind of a way. Not even remotely to the same extent, but it's kind of like Sammy in Montreal fighting for the world title in front of his people. Like, fans have been screaming, I've been one of them, that Sammy should have been a world champion by now in WWE. Well, that was his moment, and we knew it wasn't really going to happen, but you were emotionally invested.
Yep.
We were emotionally invested in this entire match as well.
Yep.
And it was awesome. Like it was just a beautiful, beautiful moment in pro wrestling, beautiful moment at Backlash, and she absolutely deserved every second of it.
Shout out to my dad who thinks she is the worst or second worst wrestler of all time. Dad.
I can name at least 5.
Yes, agreed.
I could probably name 10 to 20 that are worse than. Listen, Zelina has never had the opportunity to prove herself.
Absolutely.
She had 7 minutes against Rhea, and she did a really good job.
Yep.
A really good job.
Could it have been better? Sure, it could have been better, but like,
I would argue it couldn't with 7 minutes. Like, I think 7 minutes, they did exactly what they needed to do. If it was a little longer, maybe they could have done more stuff. But with only 7 minutes on the card, like, we don't got time. Let's just go out there and do stuff. Like, let's just go out there and we'll beat each other up. You beat me up for a little bit. I'll hit a couple moves. You hit Riptide. Let's go home. Like,
and
that's
listen,
exactly what it needed to be.
No matter how cool the moment was or how emotional the moment was, we all knew what the finish of this match was going to be. It didn't take a rocket scientist to know how this match was going to end. Yet we were all still invested. There was one fall in there where everybody's heart skipped a beat because we thought Zelina was going to pull the win out. She did not. It's fine. You know,
in that moment, I was like, they're going to put the title on her and then she's going to drop it at SmackDown. Like, that's exactly what's going to happen. And in that moment, I was like, and I don't think I would really hate it. I think I would probably pop if she won this title right now.
Everybody would have. It would have been insane. It would have been one of the most insane pops in WWE history if she would have won. We'll get to the most insane pop here in just a second after I go over the scorecards here. Andy topped me in this one 11-8. The category that we were different on is Andy picked under 3.5 aerial moves for Zelina Vega. I did not. That's where we were different. However, the biggest pop, not only of the night, but loudest pop, I'm going to say, in WWE since Edge's return in 2020 was not Bad Bunny. Freaking Carlito in the middle of this match. Huge. Oh my gosh.
I'll say this. The pop was so loud, I couldn't hear the music for a second. I didn't realize it was him until I saw him.
Right.
Because I couldn't hear the music. And then when we saw him, me and you both popped.
Was it
huge when we saw him?
Dude, I've watched so many videos that people have filmed at Backlash when he came out. Dude, you talk about the sound distorting on your phone and the speakers blowing out. Oh my gosh, it was insane. It is not the Road Warrior pop anymore. It's the Carlito pop.
It's the Carlito pop. And it was so cool to see that too, because I think everybody thought when he came back in 2021 Rumble.
Yes. Yep.
And then he had a match on Raw with like MVP.
But again, there was nobody there.
Something like that. There's nobody there.
Thunderdome era.
And so getting to come back in his home country in that moment, I don't think a lot of people thought he was going to be there.
to my knowledge, kept a secret, but who knows? We weren't there.
I hadn't seen any reports about it either. And boy, that roof is still missing because they blew that sucker off when they started screaming. It was such a good pop.
And like we all thought it was super cool that Savio Vega was there. You know, that was cool. But then Carlito. Oh my God.
And then he spit the apple and Dom, and the place just went even crazier. Like, I will go to my deathbed saying this should have been the main event. This absolutely 1,000% should have been the main event, because I thought it was very weird that they did Selena and Bad Bunny back to back.
Yes.
But the thing is, the crowd was not tired going from Selena to Bad Bunny.
Correct.
In fact, I think it kind of amped them up a little bit more because they're like, "Oh, we're getting back to back here. Here we go. This is what we've been waiting for." So
exactly.
I kind of wish this one was the main event, and your final shot at Backlash was Bad Bunny, Carlito, Vega, Rey Mysterio, the LWO standing in the middle of the ring. This also showed that wins and losses matter. But sometimes they don't, because when the LWO came out, boy, they got a big pop. Like, they got a huge pop, too. Yep. So it was such a cool moment. The entire match was so cool. It was by far the best match of the night.
Yep.
And the most fun I've had probably since, man, that might be the most fun I've had in a match probably since Knoxville and Sami Zayn.
Yep. That's the one I was getting ready to say.
And we were there for that one, and I enjoyed this one more than I enjoyed that one.
Imagine if we would have been in the crowd for this one. Just imagine. Oh, my gosh.
When the shopping cart got pulled out, I popped big time, so I'd have lost it.
It was so good. The New Jack tribute was so good because he had the chain around his neck and everything. That was great. Man, you gotta hand it to Bad Bunny. You said it earlier. He's probably the top celebrity performer in history. But one of the points that I was going to make with that is we know he's had multiple matches and we know he is an athlete. Do you separate Pat McAfee from that, or do you lump him into that as well? What's your take on that?
I got to tell you, even with McAfee lumped in, I still pick Bad Bunny.
Yeah.
Like, here's the thing about McAfee. McAfee is entertaining, and he does some impressive stuff. But there are some, like, you kind of look past the flaws. Because it's Pat McAfee doing this stuff. He's got the big pop.
Sure.
His match with Austin Theory was fun. His match with Vince was
not a match. They don't acknowledge it anymore.
They don't even acknowledge it. His one with Baron Corbin was, I think it was fine. Like, it was just fine. But with Bad Bunny, the match at WrestleMania 37 was ridiculous, and this match was even better. And I don't think there's anybody even close right now on a celebrity level to Bad Bunny. And that's coming from a huge Pat McAfee mark. Like, I love Pat.
I think if you put Pat in that situation, I'm not saying you put him in Indianapolis or in West Virginia or what have you, in a, street fight or whatever. But I think if given that sort of big spotlight match, because the Theory match had some eyeballs on it. That was a pretty big featured match at WrestleMania, and he delivered. The Corbin match, not so much at SummerSlam. Right. But if given a big-time spot in a big-time feud like that, he could certainly deliver. I would like to see him in that spot, I think, before I decide if Bunny is that far ahead of him. You know what I mean?
Right. And I think he would have gotten that during the pandemic with Adam Cole when they were building to that, but just circumstances, you couldn't have a crowd or anything like that, so that part kind of blows. But just as of right now, until I see that and see what it looks like, I don't think there's anybody close to Bad Bunny right now on a celebrity level.
I can definitely see that. That is reasonable. That is a reasonable explanation for your opinion. I respect that.
I'll give you another one. See if this one's reasonable or not. I can also see Damian Priest as a world champion within the next 5 years.
100%. Yep. I mean, we're talking about giving guys their flowers for this show. Yeah. Damian Priest, my goodness.
And I know you're one of your biggest criticisms of this one, and I would say it's a nitpick, not necessarily a criticism. So I'm not trying to make it sound like you hated this match or anything.
Sure.
But you thought it was too slow in the beginning.
I did. Yep.
I think part of that was to build to what they were building to with Carlito and everything coming out. Like I think that wasn't done by coincidence. I think that was done absolutely intentional so that the crowd wouldn't get deflated before that happened or anything else. It was, I think the way they paced that in this entire match was absolutely perfect.
I mean, yeah, I completely agree that that's why they did it. And I would be okay with a slow pace in the beginning. I just didn't like that we were doing wrestling holds.
Yeah.
Like that's not what this match was.
For a minute.
Exactly. We're doing hammer locks and all the arm wrenches. We don't need that in Bad Bunny versus Damian Priest. That was my point. Like I think you could have had a slow pace and not had holds. That's my point. For tallying this one up, Andy got the better of me, 20-14 in this one. That unique weapon types and over on the Bad Bunny aerial moves. I don't know what I was thinking with that one. But Andy clobbered me in that one. Andy on his way to victory again on Bad Bunny. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us on the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast as we review Backlash. We've still got big questions in the world of wrestling to go and hit you with some quick hitters on the way out. Appreciate you hanging out with us. The Bloodline defeating Matt Riddle, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn. Tensions continue to rise in the Bloodline. We see more and more layers being opened up that we haven't seen before. But my favorite thing about this, and your wife pointed it out numerous times during this match, was how oblivious that Jimmy Uso was as to what was actually going on. I loved it so much.
Yeah. I think she said at one point, he's literally smiling like an idiot. Like he doesn't know what just happened. And his two brothers are yelling at each other and he's just smiling because they won. Like that was 1,000% done intentionally.
Yes, it was.
Like, you can't convince me it wasn't done intentionally.
Yep.
I think we're going to build off that on SmackDown, especially when Roman being there. I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens.
I can't
for the finish or the nail in the coffin on the Usos and Sami and Kevin Owens feud. It's a little weird.
Sure it is.
But I think it was past time for those two teams to move on.
Do you think we're done? You don't think we get one more match at Night of Champions?
I don't think we get one more at Night of Champions. I think we're moving on. Hopefully to Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus DIY because they teased that, and I'm so excited for that.
Don't get me too excited. Oh, baby!
If that happens at Money in the Bank, I might be going to Money in the Bank just to see that. Because
make sure that passport's up to date.
Because that would be insane. But I think we are done with this at least for now. We may come back to it at some point.
Sure.
But I think we're done with it for now, and I think it's time to be done with it. I think we need to move on from those two.
I agree, but then we don't get any payoff to this Sammy coming to Jay all the time and saying you need to leave, blah, blah, whatever. I mean, I think that still has to be revisited, so I don't know that it's completely closed.
I could see that happening when Roman finally turns on Jay. And they're let's say the Bloodline are beating down on Jay in the middle of the ring, and Sammy's music hits, and he comes out and makes the save. Like, I think that could be when, because that moment has to happen on a pay-per-view, not on a SmackDown or something like that. Mm-hmm. So I could absolutely see that happening down the line, or Sammy calls Jay. I think we are going to revisit that, but when Jay is finally out of the Bloodline.
Do you think
that's when we go back to that?
I think we're headed towards this Jay getting kicked out. Like, I think that has to be where we're going. But I don't know that it's a situation where the entire Bloodline jumps Jay. I think it's Roman and Solo for sure. But I think Jimmy is sort of in the middle. And I think we played the card for a while of Roman, trying to figure out whose side Jimmy's on and what I think
Jimmy does exactly what Jay did at the Rumble.
Yes.
And just walks out.
Yep.
And then we kind of go from there heading forward. But I got to tell you, man, at some point down the line, an Usos versus Roman and Solo match would be amazing to get to that point.
I think
and especially if Solo gets the win.
Mm-hmm.
which I think could absolutely happen.
Depends on where we're at in the Roman J story.
Yeah.
If we're telling that single story or, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it could easily happen at Money in the Bank. Who knows?
Yeah. Plus, I think it would be very interesting if you put Rikishi in there somehow.
Yeah,
maybe as special guest referee, maybe as enforcer, whatever it is.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, I definitely agree.
I think that would be great.
If we're visiting our pro wrestling scorecards here, again, at PW Scorecards on social media, check those guys out. They do scorecards for every single pay-per-view, not just WWE, so go check them out. We both had the good guys winning here, so we did pretty rough. Andy defeated me in this category as well, 8-3. The only thing I got right was that it was going to be a pin. So, lovely. Lovely. All right. The main event of the night, which probably shouldn't have been the main event of the night, but I get that this is the match that, is propelling a story forward, and Cody Rhodes is a main eventer, and if Brock Lesnar's not on first, he's going to be last, and all the things, I get it. Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar, you mentioned it earlier. Brock Lesnar bleeding was the highlight of the match. It was exactly what it needed to be. But man, I said it on the post show, man, I walked away satisfied from this match. I really did. And I'm excited now that we see on Monday Night Raw, we're getting another one. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I think Backlash, I wasn't satisfied, but after Raw, I'm more satisfied.
Sure.
Because we're heading in that direction. I think I'm gonna give her props twice. I think Katie, on the way home because we went to your house and watched it.
Yes.
On the way home from your house, we were talking about Backlash and everything else. And she said, because if you haven't listened to the podcast at all, Katie does not do well with blood.
No.
Which means she married the absolute wrong person to watch wrestling with, because I love it. I think it's necessary with some match types and some feuds and everything else. I think it's very necessary. Can tell you this was not on my bingo card, though. Brock busting himself open for this Cody match. But she even said, without the blood, this match is kind of Like, it's just like, it's a Brock match. But because there was blood, it added so much more to it. So I think that was absolutely right. Plus, I've seen reports where the color policy of like busting yourself open applies to everyone other than Brock Lesnar. And if Brock wants to bleed, Brock can bleed. Like, he's absolutely allowed to bleed. And if he's bleeding for you, that means he gets it and he sees it and he's going to do whatever he can to get you over. I did see a very interesting stat that I wanted to get your thoughts on.
Okay.
Taking world title matches out of the way.
Okay.
This is the first time Brock Lesnar has lost a one-on-one match clean since Goldberg at Survivor Series.
That makes sense.
And that's crazy.
Yep.
And there's only 7 people to beat Brock clean since his return in 2012.
So that would be Cody. Let me see if I can name him. Cody, Triple H.
Yep.
John Cena.
Yep.
Did Taker beat him clean?
Nope. Taker low blowed him at SummerSlam.
Okay. Roman Reigns.
Yep.
Seth Rollins.
Yep.
That's 5. We got 2 more. Bobby Lashley. Nope. Bobby wasn't clean.
Nope. I named one.
Who?
It hasn't happened since then.
Oh, Goldberg. That's 6. Who's number 7? That's beating Brock clean. Oh, Drew McIntyre.
Yep.
Impressive.
So those are the 7.
I'll
Hall
take
of Famers.
I'll take your stat though, because how many times since that 2016 Goldberg match has Brock Lesnar actually competed not for the World Heavyweight Championship?
I think with Lashley once.
You got Lashley once. You got Cody.
Got Cody.
Is that legit all? Because Brock...
No, he faced Luke Harper at Roadblock. It was supposed to be him and Bray. And then Bray was injured because it was going into WrestleMania 32, which Dean Ambrose, WrestleMania 32.
But that was before that. It was before the Goldberg match.
That's before the Goldberg match. It's true.
So after the Goldberg match, he beat Goldberg at WrestleMania for the title, held the title until he lost at SummerSlam
to Roman
in 2018.
Yeah.
And then he won it back.
I think Lashley was the first time.
Yeah. So Lashley and Cody, if our math is right, are the only two singles matches.
Somebody.
Yeah. In the last 7 years since Goldberg, only singles matches he's wrestled, not for the world
I was going to
title.
say Cain Velasquez, but that was for the world title because that was after the Kofi
It
debacle.
was. Yep. Sure was.
Wow, that's insane, man.
Isn't it?
I'm not saying this just to bash on Vince, even though I love to bash on Vince.
Right.
That just goes to show he did not know what to do with Brock outside the world title picture.
That is correct. Yep.
Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely. All right. Hope you all enjoyed our Backlash review. Hope you guys enjoyed Backlash. It was a fantastic show. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us. This is the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. We are going long on this show. Andy and I say it every week. This doesn't look like it's going to be a long show. And
Rabbit hole.
Then Andy says, well, we'll find the rabbit hole and it'll be a long show. So appreciate you guys hanging with us. We are here for you each and every Friday, wherever you find your podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, all the ones in between. Thanks for hanging out with us. That's Andy York. My name's Chris Belcher. Make sure that you are subscribed wherever you find your podcast. Make sure you hit the subscribe on our YouTube channel. That is the exclusive home of the video version of this podcast. Hit that subscribe button. Like the video. Leave us a comment. We would appreciate it very much. Also, we would love to hear your feedback. PBWF, our fantasy booking show, over on another feed. Just type in PBWF and you'll find it. Fantastic show that we do each and every Tuesday. Go check that out, as well as our Pro Wrestling Tees store. ProWrestlingTees.com/PBW podcast. Get yourself a t-shirt. We would appreciate it. All right, Andy. Biggest questions in the world of wrestling. And I mentioned my article about Roman Reigns a little bit ago. Let's dive into that just a little bit, because Roman Reigns, upon Night of Champions, will be undisputed Universal Champion for 1,000 days, coming up at Night of Champions, or at least around that time. Yeah. So, who's next, in the words of Goldberg, for Roman Reigns? What do we got? Well, I assume we're going to get a match at Night of Champions. That's a Saudi show. Yeah, it's a Saudi show. Normally, Roman does the Saudi shows.
Yeah.
So who's it going to be? What's next? What does this road for Roman look like until then, or until SummerSlam? What do we see?
Well, I think especially for the 1,000-day mark, you need a big name to go up against Roman. I don't think you can do like a Roman versus Dolph Ziggler in this situation.
Nope.
Even though I love Dolph, and Dolph, I wouldn't mind this. There was a time where I wouldn't mind a Dolph title run again, but I think we're past that time now. Unfortunately. The first name that instantly comes to mind is Bobby Lashley.
Yep.
Like that's the one that we haven't done yet.
Yep.
That's the one that you could do that would have a lot of nuance to it, would be fresh, would be nice, and something we haven't seen before. But if you're going to do a one-off going into Money in the Bank, him and AJ would be a lot of fun too.
Yep.
Like him and AJ would be a great way to go. I could also see him and Edge one more time.
Yeah, I could definitely see him.
And Night of Champions.
Yep. Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. I tell you one that might not be. I don't know how his reaction is in Saudi Arabia. One that would be good would be Sheamus, which I think we've sort of missed the boat on. I think we had a run towards the end of 2022. We thought we were going to get that at the Royal Rumble. I think Sheamus would be good.
Yeah.
A lot of people floating around about Karrion Kross. I think that's
got a lot of work to get up to that point.
I think that time has passed. AJ I had on my list. Lashley I had on my list. This is not for it's not for Night of Champions. Maybe Money in the Bank could definitely be SummerSlam. I think we're headed to Conor McGregor at some point
versus
Roman Reigns.
I don't know if we're doing that for the world title.
Why not? Why not?
Man, I think there's other prospects for Conor before we get to Roman.
We got to get that WWE UFC merger. We got
and
to
Riddle
print that money.
Is the first one you got to do.
Yeah, I know. That's true.
I trust Riddle to help Conor. I trust Conor not to necessarily kill Riddle. Here's my problem with Conor McGregor getting involved is I think it turns into a shoot really quick no matter who he's in the ring with.
Oh, yeah. Good point. It's true.
So I don't know. I would be shocked if we never saw McGregor in a WWE ring wrestling. I think he may show up, but I don't think he necessarily wrestles. I'll give you another name that I think is kind of out there, more towards the Dolph Ziggler side because of he's not been given a chance yet, but just I want to see it so bad at some point. And that's LA Knight. I think LA Knight and Roman would be a lot of fun.
You know who I don't want to see in a world title match against Roman, but I want to see them go to war on the microphone or at least interact, is Cameron Grimes.
Oh, please. I need a backstage segment with Cameron Grimes and Roman Reigns.
Right?
Paul Heyman. I need a backstage segment with Cameron Grimes and Paul Heyman first.
Would that not just be the most entertaining thing on television?
Oh, it's so good. It would be so good.
Let me tell you who's one that's not out of the realm of possibility, especially for SummerSlam, that I think it's probably coming. Bad Bunny.
You know, I don't hate it.
I'm just saying.
And you know, other than Logan Paul, I wouldn't mind it.
I'm just saying.
Like that would be fine with me. I think that would be a lot of fun between those two.
Bad Bunny.
Man, you get Carlito back. I just want to see Carlito all the time now, just to see if he gets that pop every time he shows up.
For real. I mean, you set it up with the LWO versus the Bloodline. You've got those guys neutralizing the Bloodline. I mean, who knows what state the Bloodline is in at that point. But
Right.
I think Bad Bunny is you want to sell tickets in Detroit? You want to put butts in the seats for SummerSlam?
Yeah,
that's a way to do it.
And you could set it up even more by doing Ray versus Roman at Money in the Bank.
Sure.
And have Bad Bunny come out at the end.
Yep.
And then you can build to it that way.
Yep.
Have we done Ray and Roman yet? I don't think we've done Ray and Roman.
Yes.
Have we?
Hell in a Cell. The Hell in a Cell that was on SmackDown.
Oh, that was so long ago, though.
Yes.
I think you could run that back and
Yeah,
it would be fine.
That was still Thunderdome era, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's when Lashley was champ because it was Lashley and
Woods.
no, it was Roman and Woods.
But that wasn't in Hell in a Cell.
No, but it was who was Lashley face? Lashley fought somebody in Hell in a
It was
Cell.
Xavier Woods, wasn't it?
Was it Woods?
I'm fairly certain. It was a New Day member. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't Kofi.
That was Big E, maybe.
No. I'm looking it up.
It was 2021.
Definitely Xavier Woods right here.
Huh.
Yep.
I don't remember that match at all, apparently.
Again, Thunderdome era, man.
That was a wild time.
A lot of stuff runs together on that.
A wild time. It does. It really does. I feel like Bray Wyatt ran most of that, and then I looked back and I'm like, he wasn't there for like half of it.
That was the Sasha Banks and Bayley era. That's what that was.
And the Drew era.
And the Drew era. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to AEW. A couple things about AEW here. Big news reported this week that Tony Khan's got another announcement next week. Go figure. But this time it's probably something actually really, really big. And that is the reported 4 or 5 year, I don't remember the number. I do remember this number though. $1 billion between AEW and Time Warner for streaming, the library, pay-per-views, all the things. Man, a home run for AEW. Yep. Big time.
I think I have said this multiple times the last month. If you don't think AEW is doing great things right now or big things right now or killing it right now, you just aren't paying attention.
That's exactly right.
You just aren't paying attention. I think part of it is we got so used to seeing AEW do some things for a long time that in our mind it was like, man, this is starting to get a little stale. And then you just start to look at the numbers, and the proof is right there. You don't almost sell out Wembley with no matches,
Right.
and not doing a great job, and then come out and do this, and you can't tell me that AEW isn't succeeding right now.
Absolutely, they are. For sure,
I think they're succeeding more than a lot of people thought they would at this time.
Well, especially because the pandemic came right after they started. They weren't even a company for 6 months when the pandemic started. And, everybody said, oh, that's going to set them back like 3 years. Well,
I think it helped them a lot more than hurt them, because they weren't able to get out of Jacksonville, and everybody was dying to see them.
Yep.
And when they started making the rounds again, they were selling out and the places were going crazy. And
right.
I think it helped a lot.
Plus, yes, they were on national TV every week, just like WWE, but they were able to work out a lot of kinks with nobody there.
Yep.
So, I mean, I think I'm not going to say that I think it helped them, more than it hurt them, because clearly they needed the momentum, but man, they were able to get it figured out. And like you said, when they came back, that first show, man, Malachi Black debuting in front of the first live crowd,
and they were hot.
Was wild, dude.
Yep.
It was wild.
And I think, I think this shows once again that AEW and Cody both made the right decision.
Yes.
And what they've done.
Yes, I agree. Yep.
And that's nothing against Cody. That's absolutely nothing against Cody.
And nothing against AEW.
Exactly. I think Cody needed to focus on himself as a wrestler first. And AEW needed to conduct business the way they needed to, and not the way Cody was trying to pull them in.
Yep.
And I think it's so far, it's worked out really well for both parties.
Yep. Absolutely. Even though Cody didn't win at WrestleMania, it's worked out just fine.
Yeah, well,
we're good.
It should have worked out better for Cody. Cody's got the worst end of the deal right now.
Oh, he'll finish the story eventually. It's just a long book. I mean, we're talking like Harry Potter year 7 or something. It's just a long book.
Yeah, you know how many people have actually read?
Quite a few, actually. Not many. I haven't.
I have not either. I get bored halfway through, and I'm just like, let me just get to the end.
Oh, or just watch the movie. It's fine.
Yeah, that works too.
All right, last big question to answer, and then we'll hit some quick hitters and get out of here. Again, appreciate you guys hanging with us. On AEW tonight, again, as I said at the top of the show, we're recording this on Wednesday after Dynamite. Don Callis making the turn that, again, Andy called last week. You've been calling your shot a whole lot recently. Just saying. Don Callis turning on Kenny Omega. Why? And what's next? Why?
I think to set up, I think BCC needs a mouthpiece at times.
Bad, they do, yes.
And I think Regal was a great fit for that.
Yep.
But if they're going to go in this heel direction, I think Don Callis works really well as well. Mm-hmm. For now. I don't think he's going to work for a long period of time. But I think he works well for now until Nigel McGuinness comes in, then put Nigel McGuinness in there, because that's just writing on the wall.
Okay.
I think
perfect. Why didn't they just put Nigel in now? Yeah.
Well, I think I saw somewhere where he just wants to do commentary stuff right now, or backstage stuff right now. So don't think he necessarily wants to just jump right in right away. But what I believe this is all setting up for, and I hope I'm right. Oh, I hope I'm right. You know how we talked about how the Elite may need a 5th member?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that member is Adam Cole.
Okay.
I think it's Mr. Kota Ibushi.
Okay.
And when that music hits and that man walks out, because he is a free agent, he's not with New Japan anymore. When that man comes out, oh my gosh, that place is going to go crazy. We get the Golden Lovers back together. We get the Elite all the way back together. We're the Golden Elite now, and I cannot wait for that moment to happen. Okay. So I think that is probably why we are heading with Don, to get to that moment. And then after the Golden Elite win, they may turn on Don, bring in Nigel, and now we'll keep moving in that direction.
That makes a lot of sense. I get it, and I completely agree that the BCC need a mouthpiece for sure. Any good heel needs a mouthpiece. I'm a firm believer of that, especially a faction needs a mouthpiece. That's why the Hurt Business works so well, even in the Thunderdome era. But anyway.
Bloodline with Paul Heyman.
Exactly. Gotta have a mouthpiece. But I just don't like the Don Callis turn. And the reason I don't like the Don Callis turn is it took us a while with Ray and Dominic, and maybe that's a bad example. But the point that I'm trying to make is these real life people that we know are so close outside of the business, it's hard to an extent to believe them splitting up on screen. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't know. I get it and I understand it, but it's hard to buy.
I don't think Don's going to be on TV for much longer.
Okay.
And I think we're at the point now with Kenny, we don't need Don Callis with Kenny
Especially if
anymore.
he's a babyface, we don't need Don Callis. I agree with that.
We don't need Don Callis anymore. And I think this is just the way to get him away from Kenny for a while, just to get him off TV for a while.
Right.
Because then he can come back with, you know, insert your heel faction here or insert your big time heel person here, and he's automatically off and running.
Sure. That makes sense. Now, it was interesting the way that it all happened and the way it all, transpired with him kissing Omega on the head and, everything that happened. So we didn't necessarily align with the BCC. Is that right?
Right.
Or,
that's kind of true. Yeah.
So maybe it's just I'm walking away from everything.
It could be he's going to focus on Takeshita now, because we could get a heel Takeshita. Because I think if Takeshita is going to do anything, he needs a mouthpiece as well.
Oh, absolutely.
And if he's going to be a heel, then Don Callis will work really well with that. And it could be one of those that Don Callis and the BCC have worked out this thing where them and Takeshita are going to go after the Elite. And then we can go from there and do Takeshita versus Kota Ibushi, because take my money now, that would be a fantastic match as well. So I feel like we're heading to that direction.
Yep.
So that Callis can be removed from the Elite. The BCC can go do their own thing. The Elite can go do their own thing after Blood and Guts.
And all these things that you keep saying, I mean, Forbidden Door is right around the corner.
Yeah.
So, like, it's all coming together, and it can all happen around that time. And they generally do Blood and Guts, like, right after that. So, it all makes all kinds of sense.
Yeah.
All right. That is going to do it for this section. We got some quick hitters, 5 quick hitters on the way out. Again, appreciate you guys hanging with us. I know this is a little long, but great discussion. Hope you guys are enjoying it. Give us some feedback at PBW Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And if we didn't talk about what you want to hear about, hit us up. Let us know. We answered viewer questions earlier. We'll be glad to talk about it. All right, 5 quick hitters to go out the door. We mentioned Karrion Kross earlier. Man, Shinsuke and Karrion Kross was actually really good on SmackDown. Yeah. I enjoyed it. Makes sense that Shinsuke won because he was on his way to the tournament, which we didn't know at the time. Now we do. But I was kind of bummed that Kross didn't win, man. We mentioned earlier we got to figure it out with him, right?
Yeah, I think we're going to start building him up more. Post-draft, I think we can put him in there with some people that he can kind of go through a little bit to build himself back up. But he does need, like, I know he beat Drew, but he needs like a signature win,
sure,
to move forward from this point on. So I think we're probably going to build to that. Maybe even at SummerSlam, he can have a match with somebody at SummerSlam, and he can kind of move on from there. I never realized, and it kind of has baffled me, that this was like only the second time going to Raw. This is only the second time I believe Seth and Shinsuke have locked up.
Yeah, first time was at that Survivor Series.
and it was awesome.
Yeah.
And this one was no better. I need more Seth and Shinsuke. Like I need to see those two guys go at it.
Well, it's going to take a minute because Shinsuke is saddled with the Miz feud that we all love to talk about.
He's sucked into the Miz vortex.
We will
Oh,
see
Lord. Poor
what-
Shinsuke.
We'll see what happens.
Johnny still hasn't recovered from it.
But we're getting there. We're getting there.
We're getting there.
And I'll get to that next. But one more thing about Cross. Yeah, I could see very easily if he's in a big time match at SummerSlam. Man, I could see that being with like AJ Styles. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Shinsuke.
That would be interesting.
Sorry, not Shinsuke. AJ and Karrion Cross. Speaking of Johnny Gargano, we're teasing it, man. You mentioned it earlier. Tommaso Ciampa on his way back. And it seems even more that by Candace's reaction by when Johnny said he's coming back. So,
Yep.
I'm excited.
Listen, they better be in a great city when that man comes back. They better just do it at Money in the Bank when he comes back so we can get a proper DIY pop because they need a proper DIY pop. And I cannot wait for that moment. I'm so excited for that. I want them to go after Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and let them beat them and run with those tag titles for a little bit. That would be so nice.
Yep. That would be fantastic.
And we know Triple H loves them.
That's right.
Triple H absolutely loves them.
You know what Triple H also loves to do? Split them up and have them feud. So
Which is fine with me too because they do a great job there. But
I think Johnny and Ciampa need to win the titles at SummerSlam and at some point split up and Johnny Ciampa at WrestleMania.
I also
Sign me
think we
up.
need to do at some point put the team of Johnny and Kevin Owens, Tommaso Ciampa and Kevin Owens together versus Johnny and Sammy because those are two mirrors looking back at each other.
That would be quite interesting.
Perfectly.
That would be quite interesting. We mentioned him earlier. We glossed over him last week, and I can't believe we did it. Man, I'm so excited that Cameron Grimes finally got drafted and he is on the main roster. I cannot wait to see what happens. I know he's got Baron Corbin coming up this Friday on SmackDown. I can't wait to see how he gets used on the main roster.
Yeah, I think and I don't mean this in a bad way because I love how they used R-Truth. I think he might be the new R-Truth for a while.
He has to be.
Which I'm fine with. Listen, I would love for them to run back the feud between him and LA Knight from NXT when he was,
that was so
LA
good.
Knight's butler for a while.
That was
that was
good.
That was amazing.
Yep.
The stuff that they were doing. Like we talked about earlier, his interactions with the Bloodline are going to be hilarious.
Yes.
I think about his interactions with like AJ Styles and the club would be hilarious as well. His interactions with Karrion Cross could be very interesting. I need a moment when Brock Lesnar and Cameron Grimes are in the same ring together. Because we saw what happened when Brock Lesnar and R-Truth were in the same ring together.
I know.
And R-Truth was like the only person ever to actually pop Brock in the ring.
Yep.
To the point where Brock got backstage and was like, yeah, I want to work with R-Truth next. I was like, what? I think Cameron Grimes has a shot to do that as well.
Oh, my goodness. I could see that happening for sure. All right. One more thing from Monday Night Raw. We mentioned it earlier. Becky Lynch came back confronting Trish Stratus. Man, what is the deal with the clip that was floating around online of her attacking the producer for supposedly cutting her off on her promo?
She was going to say more and they just cut her off.
Right. But what I'm saying is, like, I think it was planned.
It might have been.
Like, I think it's a thing.
Or it wasn't planned, but then they planned the part where she attacked the producer to use it at some point.
Now
I think that's probably more likely.
That is very possible because looking at that producer video, like that was so planned, like that was supposed to happen, whatever. So I think you may be onto something there.
But you could tell when they cut her music on and she threw her mic down, she wasn't too happy about getting cut off there either.
Something happening in the Rollins household over the last month of getting cut off. And
you don't want to make them mad before a promo because they will spike a mic.
That's 100% true. All right, one more quick hitter. This one from AEW from Dynamite tonight. Dude, returns galore on the same episode of Dynamite. Thunder Rosa and Miro. Holy cow.
Yep.
Man, you talk about people who have been MIA for a while.
AEW is starting to gain the momentum they started to lose before Forbidden Door last year. And hopefully everybody stays injury free. And this Forbidden Door is not, as cursed as the last one was. But listen, I'm never going to be upset whenever Miro's on my screen or coming back. So I'm excited to see what they do with him. Thunder Rosa is very interesting to see what they're going to do with her.
Yep.
I feel like, and to some people this may be a compliment, to some people this may be a slap in the face, I feel like she is probably like the female version of CM Punk in a lot of ways. So I don't really know what to expect, but I do know, just like I want to see the Elite versus CM Punk at some point, I want to see Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa again, because I love it when real life comes into pro wrestling, and it's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, we need to run that back one more time. I agree. What I found interesting is something that we haven't seen in AEW. Jog my memory, if ever, that we haven't seen this. Both of them wanted to go see Tony Khan in their return. What is up with that? I think
that's the first time.
See, I think so too. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Tony's not really ever been like
a character.
Like, he's there. We know he's there. We know he's in charge, but he's never really been used as like a character before. Yeah. Which I hope he's not becoming a character. But if this is the thing that they do from time to time, then it kind of bleeds that real life into wrestling that I just talked about, that, could help or hurt the situation.
Like, I completely agree with you. I don't think he needs to be a full-time character, but I also think that this is absolutely intentional for something. Like, I don't know what it is, because like if one of them would have said it, okay, fine. I wouldn't think twice about it. But both of them returned after huge long layoffs, and they both say it. It means something.
I think I've only seen him come out one time to make a match. And I think that was during Kenny's title run.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know
because I remember him screaming at the end of Dynamite one time. That got clipped, and people were posting on Twitter for a long time.
Aside from his announcements, like, I know he went out to the ring when he announced the ROH purchase.
And he did a little thing before the Owen Hart tournament finals.
Right. So I don't think so. Especially,
he might not have, but
especially like I think they said they wanted to go to his office or something, which again, not something that gets brought up. I just found it really interesting and makes me really intrigued, man, to see where they're going to go with it. See if it actually turns into something.
Yeah, me too. I don't need him as a character on TV week to week. I think from time to time is perfectly fine.
Yep.
But I don't think we need him necessarily week to week. But I do think it would be very interesting if we do this brand split. I think it would be very interesting if we did have GMs for AEW.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you that, any brand
Raw and
splits,
SmackDown need them.
Yeah, any brand splits, I think you need GMs, and that makes a lot of sense.
Which I think once Regal's allowed to show up on TV, I think he might be the GM for one of them, and Adam Pearce just be the GM for the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And for AEW, I mean, you could do... Man, Bret Hart would be fun. I think Bret Hart would be very interesting to come in and do it if he would. I mean, listen, you've already got Paul White there, and you've got Mark Henry there. Use them.
Yep.
Nigel McGuinness.
You could use Don Callis.
Tony Schiavone. Don Callis.
Yep. A lot of people.
Jim Ross. JR needs to be a GM.
Oh, Lord.
GM JR. There you go.
GM JR. My gosh. On that note, we're signing off, ladies and germs. We're done. I can't top that. I can't go on past that. We're done. Thanks for hanging out with us this week. We appreciate you joining us, whether you have joined us on a traditional podcast platform or on our very own YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button wherever you're at. Leave us that 5-star review. We would appreciate it. And, of course, follow us at PBW Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Don't forget to go search for our PBWF, our Pipe Bomb Wrestling Federation Fantasy Booking Show. Is available on a separate feed. Make sure you go check that out. We would appreciate that very much. Much love to SportsWire Radio and to WrestleBuddy, our partners. We appreciate them very much, all their support. We could not do what we do without them, so thank them very much. Andy, fantastic show. It has gone on a very long time. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. But we will be back next week with more fantastic wrestling news as we march towards Night of Champions. Double or Nothing. I will be at SmackDown tonight as you're listening to this. Should be a fantastic show. So we'll have more on that coming up next week. For Mr. Andy York, my name is Chris Belcher. This has been Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. We will catch you guys down the road.